Viewers and subscribers, welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. I am your host, Rafa. Now, coming up in today's podcast, we're going to be previewing the Copa America coming up in the US, and it gets underway on Thursday. Argentina faces Canada. Now, joining me this evening to preview the groups in the Copa, we have returning to the podcast, Christoph.
Good to be back, viewers.
Yes, indeed, Christoph. Football coming at us left, right, and center. The Euros are in full effect. And we see the Copa America coming up, starting with the first match. Defending champions Argentina faces Canada. Now, Christoph, we're going to run through the groups and give our own predictions in terms of who we think will progress to the second round of the Copa America. Of course, it will be the group winners and the runner-up, and then also the next two best third place finishers will also progress. So it's the group winners and the runner-ups, and then the next two best third place winners. So Christoph, take us through these groups.
So in the Copa, I believe we have four groups. In Group A, we have Argentina, Canada, Peru, and Chile. I think that's probably a very easy group to call. We go with Argentina and Chile. Chile, who is also a former champion and had before Argentina won the most recent Copa, if you can call it that. Chile were back-to-back winners of Copa before, so I'm expecting big things from them.
Definitely this is a group with such pedigree. I mean, Argentina, World Cup winners, defending Copa America champions. And also, they also picked up that trophy, Christoph, that trophy where I believe the World Cup winners faced off with the winners of the Euros, or was it the winners of the Copa America versus the winners of the Euros? That was a new trophy introduced by FIFA, and it was the Argentinians which came away victors of that trophy as well. So this is a mouth-watering group indeed. Lots of good matches to look forward to. Of course, the standout team right there, Argentina. And of course, closely following them, I would say definitely Chile. But of course, this is a tournament, this is a competition, and teams will be coming full force, and we can never tell what may very well happen. Of course, as we saw in the previous World Cup, Argentina lost their first game, Christoph. So,
Didn't
it's
they
not,
draw the first game? It was a loss. I believe it
yeah,
was a draw.
no, I believe was it a draw or a loss? I'm not sure, but the result was not suiting for the team. The expectations were so high, but they went into that game and dropped points. If memory served me well, I think it might have been a loss. I'm not sure. Maybe my memory is catching up on me, but it wasn't the most favorable result for Argentina. But they then went on and lifted the World Cup. So stranger things have happened, but much like you, I would also predict that it should be Argentina finishing top of this group, and Chile should have enough about them. Alexis Sanchez still plies his trade for this Chile team, so he would be one of those more known figures. They should, I think, finish second as well.
Well, yes, but unfortunately, it's not the Alexis Sanchez of old. So, there is that. He still does well for Chile, but he's not the same player that he used to be.
Yeah, definitely getting up in age, applying his trade now over there in Italy. But, see, he's
No, the
still
French
playing.
league.
Oh, he's now in the French league?
Yeah, I believe it's
Mm.
Marseille, I think. If
Oh,
not
well,
Marseille, is it Marseille?
that would be news to me then. The last I heard of him, he was playing in Italy, I believe, for Inter Milan, if memory serves me correctly. But
Pretty sure they had loaned him out to the French league, and I think they had made the deal permanent. If not, then he was definitely on loan there last season.
mm,
Yeah, definitely he was on loan to Marseille last season.
I
Um,
see, I see.
Returned to Inter Milan.
Got you, got you.
He wasn't on loan. He was sold to Marseille, and then Inter Milan, and then Inter Milan bought him back. As
But there you go, there you
that's a
go. That's what
weird
I'm
one.
saying. Yeah, because to my knowledge, I know I saw him in the Italian league since this season, So still playing at the highest level, as you said, not the player he was at Arsenal. Probably that was the pinnacle of his club career, but still a force to be reckoned with, and quality is in this team. So he should be one of those linchpin we look forward to seeing in this year's edition of the Copa America. But yes, Christoph, for me, Group A, definitely Argentina to finish first and Chile to finish second.
In Group B, we have Mexico, Jamaica, Ecuador, and Venezuela. Um, I definitely think Mexico will make it out of the group, but I think potentially Ecuador will be the team to go with them. Not a very big team, but they tend to do very well in games. So that's what I'm expecting there. I don't believe Antonio Valencia is still playing, so I'm not familiar with the Ecuadorian squad at the moment.
Yes, I think this is one of those tough groups, in all honesty, Christoph. Sentimental attachments to the Jamaicans, of course. And
No,
I
not
am
really.
hoping, though, Christoph, they could potentially come out of this group as one of the better third place finishers. All they will need is to avoid defeat in at least one game and possibly pinch a 1-0 elsewhere and come out of this group with 4 points. But I think of the groups, this group favors the progression of the Jamaicans compared to other groups, in all honesty. But much like you, I am leaning towards the Mexicans from CONCACAF and also the Ecuadorians, but I think I'm going to have them in the reverse order. I think Ecuador will top the zone, followed by Mexico. And I feel Jamaica should get one of those best third place finishes, Christoph. I am hoping Jamaica can get one of each, possibly pick up a loss, get a draw, and get a win. Possibly versus, did you say the Venezuelans?
I did not say.
Oh, no.
But that's possibly their best chance of winning a match. I mean, I think they do have enough to potentially beat these other teams. But
Yeah, I
for me, it's
mean,
always been Jamaica has been lacking in that usually discipline, but it's more of a not taking their chances when they're presented to them in these games. So Jamaica generates chances, but they don't score them. That is the problem for them. If if Jamaica took their chances, I could see Jamaica potentially topping this group. But seems unlikely. I will go with Mexico, Ecuador.
well, question to you though, Christoph. I mean, now that we know that Leon Bailey is no longer going to be representing Jamaica at the Copa America, was named in the squad, but a big hurrah immediately thereafter, and he is now out of the squad, will not be at the Copa America with Jamaica. Would his inclusion
Would
in
not
the
have made a
Jamaican
difference.
team make
No,
that's a
no.
that's a question I was
I
getting at,
I get it. Leon Bailey, he's Jamaican. Blah blah blah. Whatever. He plays for Aston Villa.
right?
He plays very well at Aston Villa, yeah. But club and international is not the same thing, right? He doesn't
Mm.
have the same quality of players around him, the same quality runners or whatever. He, it's possible that he looks better than he is when he's playing for Aston Villa. And then when you come on to play in international, it just don't look that good. But it could also be, the quality of players that are around him when he's in the Jamaican squad, it does not allow him to shine. But if he were playing in the Jamaica squad, it would not make a difference.
Mm. I see, I see. Yeah, that's definitely the question I was getting at, that would his inclusion have boosted the chances of Jamaica making it out of the zone? I think he could have offered something, if not anything but a greater level of confidence for this Jamaica team, as well as a bit more squad depth, so to speak. Injuries is always part of the game, and Jamaica, possibly with a number of players who may pick up knocks, the likes of Antonio, we know he's very injury prone, for example. So it is what it is. Jamaica goes there with a squad. And I think under this coach, I have seen some progression with this team. And I am hoping that they can progress from the zone as one of those teams. Whether, as I said, sentimentally, I would want to see them go on further. But I am looking more so as one of the better third place finishers. So for me, it's Ecuador to top the zone and then followed by Mexico. And hopefully Jamaica can get one of those best third place spots. But moving on, Christoph, tell us about Group C. Which teams are in Group C?
Group C, we have the United States, Bolivia, Uruguay, and Panama. Um, I guess that's probably another easy one. We can go with Uruguay and the United States. Um, I mean, we know Uruguay has recalled Luis Suarez to the squad, so I'm expecting very big things there. Um, Uruguay has historically done well. They've done well at the World Cup. They've done well in the Copa. Not necessarily winning those, but we expect them to
Yeah, I
progress to
mean,
the
they
latter
definitely have a
stages.
rich history in the Copa, Christoph. They, I believe, have won the Copa 15 times, tied with Argentina in terms of the teams which have won the Copa America the most time. Brazil, surprisingly, has only won the Copa America 9 times, Christoph. So it's really a rich history with the Uruguayans in this competition. And if history tells us anything, they were also the first winners of the World Cup. So they have a rich footballing pedigree over there in Uruguay. And for sure, this group looks tailor-made for them to top it. I expect the likes of their top striker there who represents Liverpool, Darwin Núñez. He should be the man, one of the standout stars that we should be seeing on display in the Copa America. And definitely
You
I'll be
have
keeping a
some
close
very
eye on this Uruguayan team.
you have some very high hopes for Darwin Núñez. If
Ah,
the Premier League
definitely.
season has
I
told us
think
anything is
he
that
will
he
go
can't
as
be counted
far with
on.
this team. Yeah, I mean, but I think he is quite potent for his national team. In all honesty, it's almost like it's the reverse of a Leon Bailey, where he might not be the best version of himself at the club level, but once he puts on the national colors, it's almost like the player is transformed and
Mm.
he is
Like
kicking in goals
A
left, right, and center.
like a Nicolas Bettner. He was one of those
Ah,
players who his club form was never stellar, but once he touched that international, different
exactly.
thing.
Exactly. It's a different animal that comes out. So I'll be keeping a close eye on this Uruguayan team in all honesty. And much like you, Christopher, I definitely expect Uruguay to go through as the number one team in that zone.
I definitely expect to see Uruguay in at least the semifinals.
Yeah, Uruguay, I believe so. US did get a good result versus Brazil in their recent friendly. However, they were battered, I believe, previously in one of those games as well. So it has been an up and down sort of international friendly campaign for this US team.
I mean,
Ah,
it. I wouldn't just put that down to the US because a lot of the big teams have had some spotty friendlies leading into this Copa. So it could be a case where teams are just experimenting and see what options they have leading into it. So
that's
I
a
think that
possibility
might
as
have
well.
been the case.
But I
Because
think with the Copa being held on US soils as well, that should galvanize the US team in all honesty, and they should finish, I would say, second in this zone and progress to the next stage as well.
yeah, I expect them to come second in this group. I do expect to see them in the next phase. I just don't know. I'm not expecting to see them in the semis or even in the finals. So definitely not the
Well,
finals.
you can never tell the effect of that home crowd advantage, to be
Eh,
honest. The US is a very patriotic team, and when that home crowd comes on chanting USA, USA,
There's
teams,
for me
players lift their levels.
with the US team there, and it's always been the case to me. I've always seen them do better than what they look like on paper. It's that there's a lot of grit and fight in the US national team, but um at the end of the day, the quality is not quite there. So
I can concur. I can concur. They have a few solid players, I would say, the McKennies, the Pulisic, the Giovanni Reynas, for example. These are You could say
Overrated
household
players.
names, possibly overrated, as you say, but
I think these Reinas, these Pulisic, I put them in the same vein as a lot of English players,
Weah,
English
you
talents,
have Weah as well, so.
players who get a lot of hyping but aren't really as good as people think they are.
Possibly. Definitely be tuning in to this Copa America to see what we can get from this US team and see if they can indeed live up to that reputation of being fighters and, that grit and rising above what they look like on paper. So for me, though, Christoph, definitely for this zone, Uruguay to go through and also the USA to go through with them. How does Group D look?
So for Group D, we have Brazil, Costa Rica, Colombia, and Paraguay. And I think we can say Brazil and Colombia are the most likely to go through. And Paraguay could potentially be one of those best third place finishes to move on to the next round. But definitely Brazil and Colombia to go
Y-
through.
Yeah, I agree with those picks as well. I also agree with the possibility of Paraguay picking up uh one of those best third place finishers. Two teams will go through as the best third place finishers, and I think it may come from this group. Brazil hasn't been the free flowing Joga
Joga
Bonito
Bonito.
flair type Brazil of late. This team just lacks that Brazilian flair, that Brazilian passion. It's almost as if these Brazilian players have become Europeanized. And it's more of a European style we're seeing in the national colors, the gold and blue. It doesn't reeks of that calypso type Brazil flair and spirit. So I'm not sure what's going on with this Brazilian team. They should have enough quality, however, to make it to the next round, but that flair needs to come back to the Brazilian shirt. In all honesty, Christoph, what says you? Is this the new Brazil we're looking at, or are we anticipating that they'll get back to basics in terms of that Brazilian spirit, which the world have grown to love?
Well, a lot of people like the old Brazilian way of playing the Joga Bonito. But what I guess what people, say, they've become Europeanized. I agree. But also you have to realize that a lot of these players, top players, they're playing in the top European leagues or the top European teams. So they play to that style. And in Europe, there's a lot of more technical football players aren't relying on skills and stepovers
Yeah,
and
but but
fints
but
as
but
they
this
used
isn't
to.
anything new though, Christoph. All the top Brazilians also apply their trade in Europe, but once they put on the national colors, that skill, that flair, that Brazilian passion shone through. Look at the likes of Rivaldo, for example, Ronaldinho. These are players who
Right,
played at the top level for
but
Barcelona in
these
Europe.
are players who that Brazilian flair carried over to their European playing careers. We're seeing now where football is far more tactical than flair. So it's a case where it's trained out of them, so to speak. Because we don't see the likes of Vinicius Jr. doing that.
Yeah,
Even somebody like Neymar doesn't do it as much anymore. And I don't know if that's down to age or if it's a case where they're finding that it's not really as effective as it used to be. So as
but
such,
I mean,
there's been
it
a
was
reduction.
effective in the past. I mean, Brazil have won the World Cup on several occasions when it was that
Five.
Brazilian flair and spirit which came out. Ever since that has diminished from the team, the results
Uh,
have also gone down. Also, Christoph, I mean, the last time Brazil won the World Cup was in what, 2002?
2002.
You're right. And since then, we've seen a much more European style, as you say, a more technical team rather than a more flary, free flowing team, which plays free with that bit of Brazilian flair, that Brazilian magic, which we, as I said, we've grown to love and trust. The likes of our Ronaldo with his stepovers, a Ronaldinho, yeah, so many players we can name which had that touch of class. We would look forward to watching that Brazilian team, but no
True,
longer is
but
that the case.
also those players, those names that you call, they also tended to burn out very young. So those players were good for maybe 4, 8 years, and then that was it. Careers were over. We saw it with Although for Ronaldo, in the case of Ronaldo, one could say it was the injuries that defeated him. But
Right, the knee injuries, yeah,
right,
definitely.
Ronaldinho was not at that world class, was no longer at that world class level at the age of 28 when some a player would be in their
Well,
prime
I
years.
mean, we've seen where it's probably the lack of discipline, partying and that sort of thing. So,
Definitely, definitely.
you know, but
But
I mean,
even if we look at even if we take somebody like Neymar, who is no longer at that level, those heights that we used to see from him, Neymar was expected to be a Ballon d'Or winner, but we
yeah,
haven't
probably
seen
that
him.
drive, that passion isn't there anymore, to be honest. Once you get those millions, then it takes something away from your game in terms of that hunger. But speaking
But
of Neymar, Neymar is injured and definitely out of this Copa, Christoph. So the likes of Vinicius, the likes of Guimaraes, the likes of Paqueta, these are the players who should be driving this Brazilian force going forward. Rodrigo there over from Real Madrid. So
I
these are some
I
of the
think
names you
they
should be looking
will.
forward to seeing.
I think they'll definitely be missing Neymar, but it is also a sort of a blessing. In the past, at big tournaments, at the World Cups, and even at previous Copas where Neymar has played, um, we've seen where teams have targeted him, and it would stop Brazilian team kind of playing their football as a result because Neymar would be playing either as some focal point of the attack or playmaker or something, and as such, there were a lot of fouls and stoppages in the game. So without Neymar, I'm not sure that teams will target anybody specifically. You might argue maybe Vinicius Jr., but I'm not sure he has the same effect that a Neymar has.
Definitely, definitely. I concur with that. Not as flary, so to speak, and writhing on the ground in pain as if he was run over by a truck. That sort of thing. But it is what it is. It is what it is. But going through with this Brazilian team, Christopher, I think Colombia is also a good pick with the likes of Luis Diaz leading their charge. This Colombian team has really been playing some awesome football. And I believe they have as good a chance as any to really go and make a big splash in this year's Copa America. It would not surprise me one bit if this team made a deep run in this competition, but it's a tough group. It will be an uphill battle for them versus the Brazilian. And of course, the other two teams in this zone is also no pushover, Costa Rica and Paraguay. Costa Rica, the lone CONCACAF team, they should probably finish bottom of the zone. I'm thinking Paraguay should get the better of them. And if Paraguay was to squeeze out a draw versus any of the other top two teams, then possibly Paraguay could go through as one of the best third place finishers on 4 points. I think if you get 4 points in this competition based on how it is structured, Christoph, I think you should be able to go through to the next round on 4 points. Because getting 4 points would suggest that you got a win, you got a draw, and you also lost a game. So depending on how big of a loss it is in terms of goal difference, then I think you have a very good chance of making it to the next round if you're able to amass 4 points. So for me, my picks, Brazil to top the zone, Colombia to finish second, and I believe Paraguay will go through with Jamaica as one of the best third place finishers. What says you? Who are your two picks from this zone?
I had said Brazil and Colombia, and that I thought Paraguay would be one of those third place teams
Indeed,
that go
indeed,
through.
indeed.
I don't think they'll get 4 points. I think they will beat Costa Rica and lose to both Brazil and Colombia. So I think they go through on 3 points. The question is probably how bad will the goal difference be, to be honest.
Right, right, right. Yeah, definitely. Competition of this magnitude may come down to the goal difference, which is also what I'm banking on for the Jamaicans, that they will be able to keep it tight at the back and pinch a goal here or there. Shamar Nicholson is one of those red hot strikers. He scored twice versus in that recent World Cup qualifiers, young Dixon as well got on the score sheet. So Jamaica do have some players with EPL quality. The likes of a D. Cordova Reed, for example, should bring his experience to this team. Antonio also, the top man over there at West Ham. So Jamaica do have a few quality players. It's just a matter, can they find it within them to develop that grit, that discipline, and that killer instincts in order to take their game to the next level. So I'm hoping. But Christoph, talk to us in terms of your winner. Who do you see winning the Copa America? What's your call for, the winners?
Um, at the moment, I don't really have a call, to be honest. I don't know. I feel like it's up for grabs. I'm guessing. I would suspect that Argentina are the favorites, given that they are the current World Cup holders. But personally, I don't have a pick. I don't have a winner at the moment. I would go with Chile, to be honest. But
Mm.
I don't
For
know.
me,
I
for
think
me, I'm gonna roll with the Argentinians in all honesty. I mean, that man Messi, you can't count him out. So for me, my pick to win, I'm calling a Argentina-Brazil final. That's my call. I think from a media spectacle, that would be a best case scenario. Argentina facing Brazil in the finals. For me, I'm gonna call Argentina. I think they have good squad. Their team is playing well at the international level. They have that magician, Messi, still playing good quality football, even though he's now playing this trade in the MLS for Inter Miami. But such skills don't die easy. And, surrounding him are some quality players as well. So it's just not Messi alone. You have the likes of McAllister, for example, who plays his trade at Liverpool. You also have Alvarez from Man City. So this team do have quality players. Messi may be the most popular name on that team sheet, but surrounding him is quality players, and they should be able to rise to the occasion. They should still have confidence from winning not only the World Cup, but the Copa America as well. So, they are now a bit wiser, more experienced. The coach is trusted. The coach obviously knows his best team and knows the quality of his players. And I think he will get the best out of this team. It would be very surprising if Argentina didn't make it to the finals. And then, of course, the finals is always a coin toss. It's a one-half game. But for me, I'm calling the Argentinians to take this Copa America and make it number 16.
I think it will be Brazil, Chile.
Brazil, Chile is your call for the finalists.
For potential winners, I
Mm,
think at the moment. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Argentina win. It's not a big
indeed.
stretch of the
And
imagination, and they do have the strongest squad on paper, I would say. Um,
stronger than the Brazilians.
I think so. Maybe if Brazil definitely had Neymar, who we know is a game changer type player, if they had
Mm,
Neymar, I would say definitely they would have the strongest squad, but definitely on paper, Argentina have this the strongest squad by far, I think.
I see, I see. And of course, speaking of the Argentinians, Christoph, they kick off the Gold Cup, the Copa America, I should say, on Thursday versus Canada. How do you see that one panning out, Christoph? Should this be a routine win for this Argentina team, or can Canada put up a fight and give them a run for their money?
I think it should be a routine win for them. Canada, I'm not expecting much, to be honest. During the World Cup, Canada looked threatening, but there was no real end product from them. I'm not sure if they've fixed that as yet. I haven't seen anything that suggests that. So,
Well,
um,
they
I'm,
do have in the dugout a new coach. So he might bring something different to the table. Former coach of Leeds, I believe. He is American. His name is eluding me right now, but he was a former coach of Leeds, got fired from Leeds, and then got this job with the Canadian national team. I mean, they do have the likes of a Davis who plays his trade over there in the Bundesliga for Bayern Munich. And he is their best player in all honesty. It's a matter of how the coach deploy him. You also have a very good striker, David, up there leading their charge. He plays his trade over there in the French league, and he is one of the top strikers in that league, Christoph. So definitely they have a few good players in and around the team, in all honesty. Uh, could they create an upset is the question.
In football, there's always the potential for an upset, but I don't see that happening in this first game. It might be a very tight, nervy game. We might only see like a 1-0 or a 2-1 or something like that. But
Right?
I definitely think Argentina get this first win under their belt.
I do not doubt that prediction either. I mean, this should be a game for Argentina to really lay down a marker in all honesty and really stamp their class on this team. Just to put things into perspective, Christoph, I mean, this Canadian team was beaten by Jamaica, in fact, to reach the Copa America. So Jamaica did beat this Canadian team in Canada and that booked their spot in the Copa America. Canada then had to go through a playoff system in order to make it to this level. So that's the sort of team we're talking about, a team which the likes of a Jamaica can in fact beat, just to put things into perspective. But I mean, you cannot really count this team out, to be honest, because Jamaica played a friendly with Argentina. I believe it was Helgrimson's first game in charge of Jamaica. And I believe Argentina just barely beat Jamaica. It was a very closely fought game. I believe Messi was on the score sheet in that game, and it was a tightly fought game. The Jamaicans really put up a show in that one. So it just goes to show it's really small margins. These days, you can't really watch the name of the team. You can't really watch the names you see on paper. Teams have really stepped up their football, and the difference between teams is no longer that big gap, but the margins are very small. And on any given day, if a team is not performing at their optimum, then anything can happen. An upset can definitely take place. But I really don't see an upset taking place in this one. I think the Argentinians should have enough quality to get beyond this Canadian team, and this should be the first 3 points for the Argentinians going forward. Messi possibly
Indeed,
getting on the score sheet as well.
definitely, definitely. But yeah, I don't expect anything from Canada. Even Argentina, not at their best, should be winning this game.
Mm, indeed, indeed, indeed. But any final thoughts, however, though, Christoph, as we round up or round off our look on this year's Copa America? Of course, matches will be taking place all over the continental USA. Jamaica, I do believe, have a match versus Ecuador over there in Las Vegas. So, you could kill two birds with one stone, Christoph, if you're into, uh, you know, going to Las Vegas, gambling and trying your luck. You could go hit the strip and also go to that Jamaica match.
No, unlikely. Um, I mean, I would probably more likely I would probably look into maybe some matches being held in California, perhaps.
Perhaps,
I'm
perhaps.
just
Oh,
take
and that coach, Jesse March, Christoph is the name of that coach for Canada. Jesse March. He former coach of, I believe, RB Leipzig over there in the Bundesliga. Then he came over to the EPL, coach Leeds for maybe half of a season or a season and a half, I believe, was fired. And then he got the job with the Canadian national team. So Jesse Marsh is in charge of Canada, and this should be his first major tournament with this Canadian team. Of course, Canada being one of the hosts of the next World Cup 2026 are automatic qualifiers for that tournament. So they won't have to go to the rigors of World Cup qualifying. So they have their place secured in the World Cup. So it's up to Jesse March to start laying down some markers and really building some sort of Canadian heritage as it relates to football. But yep, Jesse March first major tournament with Canada should definitely be interesting to see what he comes with. Of course, as Jamaicans, we're going to be keeping an eye on the CONCACAF teams, the potential teams that will be qualifying against, the likes of Panama, Costa Rica, for example. Our team, Jamaica, will definitely have to be battling it out to get a spot in the next World Cup. But definitely looking forward to some entertaining football, Christoph, coming up in the Copa America. But Christoph, any final word for our viewers and subscribers? Any final thoughts on the Copa America?
Um, I mean, it looks set up to me to be a relatively straightforward Copa America. There are not a lot of teams, but the teams that are in there, the quality teams that have made it to the Copa, we can pretty much pick out who will be advancing pretty easily. It doesn't feel like there are any dark horses in this tournament that are going to be causing much upset. At most, I would say maybe Colombia and Uruguay, I think, would be the closest thing to dark
Definitely.
horses that could create some sort of upset. So I'd be looking to them mainly if I was a neutral for some entertaining football in this tournament.
Definitely. I think you're spot on with that analysis there, Christoph. Colombia, Uruguay, who not so traditional names that could potentially, as well as possibly Chile also. I will throw Chile in the mix.
Oh,
Chile is one of those teams which have given Argentina and Brazil some trouble in the past. So don't count out the Chileans, in all honesty. But there you have it, viewers and subscribers. Thank you again for tuning in to us here on Beating the Press podcast. Again, continue to help us to grow by sharing, liking, leaving your comments. Tell us, who do you think will win the 2024 Copa America? And of course, if you haven't subscribed as yet, hit that subscription bell. But Christoph, again, thank you for coming on board also and really sharing with us some very insightful thoughts, some very interesting opinions and comments there. But that's all the time we have. So viewers and subscribers, until next time, this is Rafa signing off.